Hi, this is Haley Ashcroft. Today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about media queries through CSS. It really is an awesome technique. It was first introduced in CSS 3, and it uses the @media rule to include a block of CSS properties only if certain conditions are true. It became a W3C recommended standard in June of 2012, and it is the cornerstone of responsive web design. So what I'll show you guys today really is just incredible and useful. And I'll tell you guys a little bit more about why. In 2000, W3C started to work on media queries and another scheme for supporting various devices. But media queries is different from anything else they came up with because it's browser-centric. Everything else was server-centric. So consequently, it allows content rendering that adapts to screen resolution. So picture you have a desktop, a tablet, and a smartphone, and you pull up the same web page on each of those devices. You'd want the design layout to be slightly different for each one, right? You'd want whoever's using that or searching or browsing that web page to have a different experience for each device. Media queries is what enables that to happen. It is really awesome. It has the ability to drastically change layouts of entire pages based on the space available, but it can also alter design on a smaller scale. What I'll show you guys today is going to focus a lot on just the larger scale changes and alterations. I'll include a link in the discussion board, and you guys feel free to take a look at it. It's awesome. It's from csstricks.com, and it outlines some of the smaller scale ways that media queries is so useful. To start off, y'all can see I have my brackets text editor opened up here. Off to the right, I have the live preview of the CSS applied to the HTML. So this is what all of this looks like. It's pretty simple. This is just a basic HTML page. Media queries is a part of CSS, so obviously it's going to be found within our style tags, right? So we have our first one there, and the second one there. This whole section is for media queries. It always starts off with this @media. That's how you can tell that it's media queries right away. You're probably wondering what all of this means. And to start off, if the browser window is smaller than 500 pixels, as it specifies here, the background color will change to a light blue. So ignore media queries for just a second, and let's take a look at what's above it. So CSS has applied a light green background color to the body section of the HTML document. And that, you guys, is going to be right here. So the whole body section, this whole paragraph, is going to be light green unless the screen changes to a screen size that's less than 500 pixels. So let's put it to the test. If we look here, watch what happens as I change the browser size. And suddenly you have this light blue background, right? And as I increase it, it goes back to light green. So we have two different styling effects depending on browser size. Do y'all see how this can be beneficial for different devices? It really is such a useful technique. The second example I'll show you guys is for this second web page here. This one is much more entailed than the first one we looked at, obviously. This HTML document is much longer. But if you guys take a look at it, this whole web page, it has a series of rows and columns, right? So we have some columns here on the left and right side of the web page. Up here at the top and bottom, we have these rows. Media queries is going to affect the layout of these columns to become more responsive for large and smaller screen sizes. So looking at our HTML here, once again, it'll be within these style tags because it is CSS. So there's the first one and the last one. If we zoom in just a little bit, this is media queries. I want you guys to ignore that for just a second. What's above it is also very important. CSS has applied different column widths for this web page. So when the screen size is large like it is here. These are the different widths for the columns. These are how wide each column is going to be. It's only until we add media queries here right beneath it that we get a second element of styling. Each media queries has different breakpoints. Depending on the breakpoint, certain parts of the design will behave differently on each side of the breakpoint. So watch as I change the screen size on this. That looks completely different, right? I'll enlarge it again. So this whole layout is much more suited for a desktop version compared to this one, right? And this layout is very useful for a mobile device. If we go back to our HTML document here, Media Queries has established 768 pixels as the breakpoint. So when the screen or browser window gets smaller than 768 pixels, each column should have a width of 100%. Otherwise, if the screen is larger than 768, these are the column widths that are applied to it. This media query enables mobile users to have a more responsive web experience. I'm sure you guys can see here why that would be, right? Different layouts for different sizes. It's incredibly useful. We need to design for mobile first in mind, before designing for desktops or any other device. This makes the page display much faster on smaller devices. This also necessitates some changes in our CSS, because what we have here, you guys, is not mobile first. This whole section is desktop first. We've changed the style of, we've changed the styling for a smaller web page, right, with media queries. And we've left the larger styling to be done with just normal CSS. If we switch it around the other way, if we use media queries to change the larger screen size and allow CSS, just normal CSS, to be applied to the smaller one, we'll be stylizing with mobile first in mind. So instead of changing styles when the width gets smaller than 768 pixels, we should change the design when the width gets larger than 768. Let's take a look at the altered CSS in the HTML document, this third one we have. And when I click on this web page looks exactly the same, right? When we change the screen size, it's going to react the same as it did before. But our CSS is going to be slightly different, and I want you guys to notice why. So I'll zoom in just a little bit. We'll scroll down. Actually, where are we at? Okay. So if we scroll down here, this whole section is much larger than before. This is our media queries. If you notice in the previous one, all these specific column widths were just applied with normal CSS. And then our media queries specified column widths of 100%. If we ignore media queries in this third HTML document and look above it, we see width of 100% that's just applied with normal CSS. So because we've left this to be altered by normal CSS and we've used media queries for the larger screen size, we've stylized this website with mobile first in mind. Once again, our page will display much faster on smaller devices. It's so much better if you're pulling up this website on a smartphone. So just keep that in mind as you guys use this to design websites in the future. Media queries is awesome. It's essential to understand. It's incredibly useful. If you guys have any questions, feel free to post in the comments below on the discussion board. I'll get back with you guys as quick as I can about it. And I'm excited to learn more about CSS. This one is, once again, just very useful for different web experiences for different devices. So please keep this in mind. Once again, check out the CSStricks.com link that I have posted, as well as the W3 Schools link I have as well. And I'll just give you some extra details about media queries. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good week.